Before I begin this week's story, I want to first share the Medal of Honor actions of Hospital Corpsman 3rd Class Edward Benfold. When the Marines around him faced certain death, Corpsman Benfold responded with extraordinary courage, ultimately saving lives at the cost of his own. On the night of September 5th, 1952, during the Korean War, Benfold's company came under devastating artillery and mortar fire. Moving without hesitation from one position to the next, he treated the wounded in the middle of the bombardment. When the enemy attacked from both the front and rear, he left cover to aid injured Marines. Spotting 2 Marines trapped in a crater on an exposed ridgeline, he sprinted to help them. But just as he reached them, an enemy soldier hurled 2 grenades into the crater, while others charged forward. In a split-second decision, Benfold seized a grenade in each hand, leapt from the crater, and pressed the explosives into the enemy soldiers' chests, killing them instantly. His actions saved the Marines in the crater, but he was mortally wounded in the process. For this supreme act of valor, Hospital Corpsman 3rd Class Edward Benfold was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. He was just 21 years old. A young man whose sacrifice ensured that his brothers in arms survived to return home to their families. We turn to another story of uncommon heroism, that of U.S. Army Command Sergeant Major Franklin Doug Miller. On a reconnaissance mission during the Vietnam War, Miller and his small team were heavily outnumbered and outgunned. Yet despite multiple wounds, he refused to abandon his men. His actions that day earned him the Medal of Honor. Franklin Miller was born January 27, 1945, in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. He enlisted in the Army at the age of 20 and trained as an infantryman before later joining Special Forces. In 1966, Miller deployed to Vietnam with the 1st Cavalry Division, spending 2 years on reconnaissance missions. After completing Green Beret training, he joined the elite and highly secretive Military Assistance Command, Vietnam Studies and Observations Group, or MAC-VSOG. Their missions often took them deep into enemy territory, including Cambodia and Laos. By early 1970, Miller was a staff sergeant. On January 5th, he led a joint 7-man team of Americans and South Vietnamese tribesmen into Laos. Their mission: search for a downed intelligence aircraft and gather intelligence on a North Vietnamese base. Soon after insertion, Miller discovered 40 enemy soldiers near the crash site. Carefully maneuvering his team away, disaster struck when a booby trap exploded, wounding more than half his men. Racing to help, Miller treated the wounded and repositioned his team across a stream. Within minutes, enemy forces closed in. Despite being heavily outnumbered, Miller stayed behind under withering fire, engaging the enemy and covering his team's retreat. For hours, Miller fought nearly single-handedly against an estimated 100 North Vietnamese soldiers. He used every weapon at his disposal: rifle fire, grenades, even tear gas, to hold off the attackers. Despite being wounded multiple times, he kept moving, dragging and carrying wounded teammates to safety. At one point, shot in the chest and nearly incapacitated, he still fought off 4 advancing soldiers at close range. Later, despite a shattered arm, he crawled back through the jungle to rejoin his men, refusing to quit. After hours of relentless fighting, relief forces arrived just in time. Miller ensured every surviving teammate was evacuated before he allowed himself to be pulled out. Of the original 7-man team, 4 were killed, and the 3 survivors owed their lives to his leadership and determination. For his heroism, Miller was first recommended for the Distinguished Service Cross, but the award was upgraded. On June 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon presented him the Medal of Honor at the White House. Miller later returned to Vietnam, served 2 more decades in the Army, and retired in 1992 as a command sergeant major. Afterward, he continued serving veterans as a benefits counselor. On June 30th, 2000, Franklin Doug Miller passed away at just 55 years old. Miller once said, "Share your fears with yourself and your courage with others, because you will inspire people to do things that are incredible." That honesty captures the essence of true bravery. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. If you enjoyed today's story, please like, follow, and share it with others. And share the show.